Hi everyone, we have an amazing show for you guys today. It's very rare that I would get a chance to invite someone that has just made one of the biggest deals of his life. So we've got. Hi Ashutosh, how are you?
Hey, how are you? What's happening?
All good, all good. I can see the smile, and we're going to get into why that smile is there.
Oh, yeah.
But welcome to DamaniTalks episode 5. And I'm so glad to have you over here because, you're all over the news right now.
It's my pleasure to be here, and I think I would also like to thank you because you have been one of the first investors into the company. So also, I would like to congratulate you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of the journey, right? It's all about the journey for me, and that's what makes it interesting. So I know we're gonna I know this is big news and we're gonna get into it, but we're also gonna let people get a chance to know the man or the men behind the beard, right? And
Sure.
get into some very interesting topics. So Ashutosh, without further ado, let's talk about let's get into the fact that maybe you could tell people that are joining in right now that what is Beardo and what was the genesis or what is the idea that you guys started Beardo with?
Sure. So I think Beardo was this crazy idea to actually annoy my mom. Because I always used to keep beards, and my mom always used to tell me that I actually look like a gunda. To annoy even further and to make sure that my beard stayed as is, we started Beardo back in 2015. And beard oil was the first product that we brought in the late 2015. So the plan on a serious note here was to actually find a gap, look at a category, and try to make a mark into that particular category. But also to make sure that while you're doing this, you are doing it right? Because men's grooming was a space which was virgin back in the day. So you just couldn't say that, okay, now I'll launch a face wash and I am better than all the other 1,000 crore companies out there, and my product is better. So that was not the
Right.
approach that would have been acceptable. So I think finding a niche, trying to get into the mindsets of Indian men, and to try and teach them about men's grooming, try to actually educate them about men's grooming, and then probably spreading our wings from there on. And I think that is where Beardo came into play here. And That's how I think we started Beardo. We thought beards are something which is symbolic to, or nearest to, when you speak of men, right? So that's
Right.
where we thought that, what, why not beards? Because that is a real problem. Let's groom men with beards, or men who aspire to keep beards, and we will take it from there on.
Interesting thing that you literally did touch an untouched category, right? Because
Yeah.
at least for the Indian man, right, everything your mother or your wife is the one that and shopped for the creams and stuff like that, right? And the only thing
Right.
that the men could really look forward to was Gillette, right? I
Right.
don't remember any other brand out there that really catered to men. We literally opened up a category. Now, obviously, you got the man's company, and now Nivea. Everyone's trying to do something in this
Right.
space. But did you at any point feel that maybe we're too early for market, or how did you guys know that you guys were right at the right place at the right time?
I think this was not about the timing at the moment. It was about the understanding whether we will be able to reach the right kind of consumer online, and whether digital or e-com was strong enough to actually carry a brand like ours, right? Because we never had the money, or neither we had the background to actually go and just start with a fund which would just go and blast it out, right? So we just
Right.
had to make sure, was internet ready, or were the internet users ready? Did we have enough did we have enough people accessing the e-com platforms? Did we have enough people who started trusting the online platforms to buy the products if those particular products were actually offered to them? And
Hmm.
that was, I think, the breakout moment for us, when we really actually understood that online and e-com platforms were just going bonkers. They were just
Yeah.
taking that leap further, and now actually competing with the offline market, which probably was a dream 15, 17 years ago. So I think that's what was, I think the tipping point for us to go on.
In fact, that was what was unique about. But I remember your pitch when you guys came. You guys didn't have any offline presence at that time. Everything
Yeah.
was online. And I think
Right.
some of the people were really concerned about the fact that how are you going to sell everything online? But
Right.
honestly, I was really excited because I had seen such plays in the US and they did very well. But
Right.
was there a conscious decision that we're not going to go offline, or was there other reasons why you did not go offline
No, okay. So there
first?
were two things. The first thing, whenever we used to pitch, right? So people always used to pitch with actually data to back up. But here in India, there was no data in the first place, right? So now there were no big data companies to tell us, okay, these many people in India have beard. So that
Right.
was the question. So we did not. We had to really go out in the market, try to gather data ourselves, right? So we used to go to the shops and salons and talk to the consumers that what would happen, and then we started creating these small packets of data and try to gather those data, which was going to take a little time. Also to risk it without any data to back you up to actually go offline and then blast this out. We just made sure that online the cost of customer acquisition is much lower,
True.
the
Very
cost
true.
of spreading the education is much lower, to reach people is easier and much more faster. So hence we actually decided to to take it slow, to take and make sure that we have online existence first and then probably spread it offline, rather than just doing everything at once and then failing all at once as well. So to reduce that risk was our main goal.
But what I really find exciting about what you said right now is that you guys were using data, right?
Right.
And it's so but I always thought entrepreneurs decide from the gut, right? So where does this come from? Where does this whole data led decision making come from for you?
Okay, so we were absolutely never data people. So this actually came when we actually closed our first fund. Before that, we had 50 no's from probably 50 different VCs.
Wow.
The thing was because there was no data, right? And that is when they used to ask us, we had no answer to give them, right? Because there was no data with the data companies, neither with us. So that's when we realized that how important data is to actually close funding. Because if we don't close funding, we will be just another company out there who is trying to do something, but probably doing it okay, or not doing as it is supposed to be done. And we had realized it early on, and that's the reason the data factor actually came into play for us.
Wow. And it's such sage advice. If any and there's so many entrepreneurs over here that when you're pitching to investors, whether it is a fund or angels, so important to have your data there and data be accurate. It could be small, but it should be accurate.
Oh,
But so tell me a little bit about how did you and Priyank meet up? I know you guys are amazing friends. We've hung out for an afternoon together.
oh yes,
But
yes.
how did you guys meet up? Did you guys decide the idea because how
Oh
did it
yes,
come up?
yes. So we used to be. So we were. We were actually became friends in college when we used to
Okay.
probably just go out, hang out together, bunk the classes, and so we were those kind of friends who did not used to go to college together, but they used to go to the college gate and probably back out from there and probably go watch a movie, or probably go probably hang out and bunk and probably just hang out with friends and stuff like that. So, and I think those are the kind of friendships that actually build back in the day, right? Now, as and when you grow, right, as and when you start your professional life, I think such kind of friendships are really less or really hard to find. So I
True.
think that trust, that bonding, which is being made at that point of time is really strong, and that's what you call a bro, right? So at night probably call and you lie to your family that I was out at his place, and if I just give him a call ad hoc and ask them, was I at your place? The answer would be yes. So that's the kind of bonding that we had, and that's how we
Or you just left. Right? You just left.
right, yeah, or I just left, absolutely. So yeah, so I think that is so that's how it was, and I think both of us actually came from a little money, right? So money was never our driving factor. It was always to create something new, always to make sure that we create a name for ourselves, and also create something valuable in the market which people would probably remember us by. And I think that common driving factor was very important for us to start something of our own. And I think that is one of the bigger reasons why most of the partnerships really break in the start. कि
Hmm.
भाई पैसे का क्या हुआ? What happened with the money? Why this? Why that? We never questioned each other when it came to money matters. I think that was also one of our bases where the things really went smooth. And the trust to make sure that because work is like a marriage, like partnership, because
Very
you
true.
spend more time with the partner than you are actually with your family, right? So
Guys,
that
this is
trust
so
level.
important. Anybody listening, please go ahead because most people don't
Yeah.
understand how important having trust and knowing your co-founder is. So like you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I used to come back home, right, after probably a 10, 12, 14-hour day at work in the start, right? So my mom will be like, "Arey, abhi to office jaake aaya, ab to Priyanka phone chhod." I was like, this does not end, right? Till I sleep,
Yep.
and from the time I wake up, there are 10,000 things that has to be done. 5,000 he has to do, 5,000 I have to manage. So this will go on, and they used to get agitated कि भाई एक काम कर, तुम लोग साथ में रह लो. That was a kind of क्योंकि तुम या तो तू उसको बोल इधर आके रह ले या तो यू गो देयर एंड इवन द वाइफ्स वुड गेट इरिटेटेड दे आर लाइक व्हाट इज हैपनिंग आई वी डोंट रियली अंडरस्टैंड बिकॉज़ if this much time you would give to me, I would probably become the most loving wife or the most loving mother or the most loving father you would have ever seen. But so yeah, so I think yeah.
Yeah, so for all the wives out there, right?
uh,
The bromance, or the co-founder romance is very, very important, right? Uh,
absolutely, absolutely. I think
but obviously, hanging out with you guys, I also felt there was that besides the fact that you guys obviously trusted each other, there was a very strong bond between both of you
right,
guys, right? I never found that that he would step over anything you said, or you would step over anything he said, and
yeah.
I'm sure that within closed doors, you guys would fight like animals, and I've done that with my co-founders in the past, but
Oh yeah.
it really was like to the outside world, you guys were one unit, and I think that played a very
Yeah.
big role in the way Beardo was built.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think it has to be an unspoken rule. I mean, between partners, between friends, between brothers, or whoever you are. Maybe it's a he or a she or whosoever it is, right? When you're working together, it is absolutely important to respect each other enough that even if the other person is wrong, you still end up backing that other person, and
Yep.
making sure that his word stands strong. So basically, it's you guys against the world. So you just have to make sure that you are backing. No matter you fucking end up shouting and breaking things, when you are, fighting with each other, with, whatever it is. But when you stand against somebody, it's you against the world kind of a scenario, right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
so that is very important. I think one of the important aspects that you don't really contradict each other or try to prove each other wrong. Later, no matter what happens behind the doors, that's a different scenario.
And I think that's how most successful partnerships actually work out, right?
Right,
So no,
right,
that's great. And so I loved you guys' office, right? So obviously I come to Ahmedabad at least 10 times a year because the
right,
family has businesses there. I've been part of that ecosystem for a long time. But before we get into your office, a very critical question. Ahmedabad is not traditionally the birthplace of startups, right? People don't associate Ahmedabad with startups. And I'm
right,
sure you guys had the opportunity there was to move to a Bombay or a Bangalore or even a Delhi, where
right.
traditionally VC money has resides or is invested, right? But you guys stuck it out in Ahmedabad, and I know for a fact that you guys are a known quantity now in Ahmedabad. But why didn't you move? It would have been so much more easier. Why did you stay in Ahmedabad?
I think this notion of Ahmedabad being a small city or being a city of limited resources is somewhere not right because uh, Ahmedabad, probably Gujarat as a state, and Ahmedabad as a city is probably has been a startup hub for the past 100 years or so, because
Yeah.
you will see the maximum amount of people who have had businesses have been from Gujarat,
Hmm.
at least for the state, and for that fact Ahmedabad. So I think that notion of you will not be able to do well if you don't move to a better state or a bigger state may not be 100% true, because the kind of business also actually depends, right? Let's say IT hub may not, Ahmedabad may not be the best places, if not the best.
Yep.
But for FMCG, probably it's the bestest place you could actually be and start up something, because the best of the pharma companies come from Ahmedabad, the best of the industrial estates come from Ahmedabad. So I think, given that fact, and also the cost of work here is very low. So I think one of the most important parts when you actually start a business is to make sure that your costs are really low.
Yep.
And
Very
at the
true.
same time, if you move to a city like Mumbai or a Bangalore or a Delhi, that cost would probably just 2 or 3x just shoot up, right? I think that also helps to be in a place like Ahmedabad, and one of the bigger problems is the transit time for the
Hmm.
employees is probably at the max 15 or 30 minutes. So
Yep.
any employee here in Ahmedabad could probably reach his workplace in probably approximately 30 minutes at the max. So I think that is also one of the plus points, that you could find the best people. So let's say in Ahmedabad, let's say in Mumbai, if I was to open an office in Malad, I'm sure
Yep.
I'm not going to get people from South Bombay to come to Malad, right? Or even if I do, it will not be a lot of people there. So I
Yeah.
think that is the kind of compare. So rather than opening an office in an area called Malad, I think I would have an office here in a city called Ahmedabad.
Yeah. In fact, my brother moved the development or the tech development center for one of our startups to Ahmedabad because
Right,
almost 80% of our team was from Ahmedabad, and
right.
they said we will not take a raise if you guys move us there because for obviously, like you said, the cost of living is so much cheaper. But I also think
Yeah,
that the quality of life in Ahmedabad, it's a different life, right? I think
yeah,
people love to catch up, right? And I think
right,
that's very that's very you could say like a startup land, right? People love to catch up. There's so many places to
right.
hang out, and people can stay up till 2 3 a.m. in the morning. I mean, I've been there and I've done all of those things.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think one of the safest cities to probably go out for anybody. And also given the fact that it's a dry state, I think that has made our love for food even value more. So I
Hmm.
think people going out eating, people hanging out, so tea is one of I think the top loves in the city as well. So I think people hanging
Yeah.
out at tapris, at tea shops, at coffee shops, uh, there it's much more laid back.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think that also gives a lot of clarity about a lot of other things, because you have a lot more time which you would have otherwise spent in let's say in traffic or in transit time or doing something else. That free time is probably what people are using to create very, I would say, successful businesses. I think that's how I would look at it.
But I mean, one thing I can tell you that the business acumen of people from Ahmedabad is at another level, right?
Yeah,
So definitely, I completely agree with you that some of the best business men have come out of Ahmedabad, right?
yeah,
And it's also because I guess the bringing up is quite tough, right? On the business side, and you obviously where there is a lot of fire, that's where the strongest metal is made, right?
right.
So let's talk about Beardo now. Tell us,
Yeah,
so one of the interesting facts, and I told you about this, was that we've invested in a bunch of consumer companies, right?
right.
And we've exited a bunch of consumer companies. We exited Fine, Super Daily,
Right.
and so on and so forth. But of all of them, one interesting fact about Beardo was that it took in the least amount of money to create the result it did, right?
Yes.
And I want to talk about that with you. Like you came up with a very interesting business plan. I believe none of your production was actually in-house. It's pretty much
Yeah.
outside, and even on the selling side, you kept it outside the company. So you were only
Yes.
focusing on building the brand, right? And
Right.
that was a very unique thing that I found about your business plan because most people try to do all three or at least two, right? And you did only one, but you created an amazing result. So if you
Yeah.
could tell us a little bit more about this whole how the strategy came up and why you chose to
Sure.
do that.
Absolutely. So the plan that when we started the business, so me and Priyank were actually thinking very, I would say, traditional. So what we are trying to do was to actually create a very sustainable business where we would earn out of that business and take some money home, right?
Hmm.
Or probably not even home, but we reinvest in the business. I think that was our initial plan, and I think that is what kept us in check. So every time that we went out and raised money, we were always thinking that what if this was our money? What if this was our hard-earned saving that came from our family or probably even from ourselves? How would we spend it? So every time that we were going to spend every single penny, we were making sure that was that the best kind of decision that we are making? Was
Makes
it the
sense.
best way to spend that particular money? Also to make sure that the decisions were taken to profit the
Hmm.
company rather than just taking it for the sake of it and just for the growth. Because while growth was very, very important, it was very important that the company remained very, very sustainable, cash rich, and could take any calls that it actually wanted to whenever it wanted. Rather than,
Hmm.
thinking of, acha, paisa nahi hai account mein, or, thinking of, if we do this, we'll be, cash trapped. Rather than thinking of that, we were always thinking, sell, 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 make money, and then probably take a call or, do whatever you want with that money. And what that did was that gave us the power to save so much money that as and when we were raising the money, we were actually just putting it in the bank in safe deposits, rather than actually bringing out for the growth, because the
Yeah.
business became so strong that it was funding its own growth.
And I realized
So
that you told me this that
yeah, yeah,
essentially all the money you raised just kept sitting in a bank account, and you could have probably done
yeah.
it without raising money at all.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Because even when we actually had the money in the bank, right? Even that was one of the weakest or probably one of the positions where the founders would say, you know what? let's just blow up this money and try to reach that X amount of revenue. But that does not necessarily mean that you will be able to sustain at that level, and then you will also be profitable at that level, because not
Correct.
every single penny earned has the equal amount of profits that you'll be doing, right? So that's the reason that we made sure that even if we had money in the bank, we will make sure that the growth that comes will come strong, will come very, very sustainable, rather than just saying that okay, we just double the numbers month on month. Rather than doing that and just for the show of it or just for the heck of it, we made sure that it happened from its own money, and we just saved that money for I would say a rainy day or probably a better growth opportunity.
And what's interesting, you said that, if you could grow 100% month to month, but what I know is that Beardo, I think we were invested in it for about 32, 33 months altogether.
Right.
And you guys grew 40x in that time. So
Right.
essentially grew 1x for every month that we were invested. So,
Yeah.
but without actually burning the money, right? You were actually using the money in a very
Yeah, correct.
in judicious manner. And I really appreciate that, because obviously we got those reports and we analyzed them, and really liked the way you guys were not actually spending the money. You guys were actually
Right.
investing the money, right, in
Yes.
the business, and you always looked at it that way. So it was, it's really is one of those things that founders should understand, right? That this money given to you is not money to spend; it's money to invest judiciously into the future of your company.
Correct.
And I'm glad you brought up that point. But what were some of the challenges? I'm sure there were challenges. What were some of the challenges as you scaled this 40x kind of growth in the last 33 months odd?
Sure.
Yeah.
So just before I get to that question, also to add, because of that thought process, today, even if COVID lockdown went on for probably, let's say 6, 8, 10 months, we would still be funded enough to pay all of our employees fully without any pay cuts, and even then sustain ourselves and still grow. So
Wow.
that is what this money did, right? So when today, when the lockdown actually started bringing out panic into people and into startups, okay, what happens? What if we are not able to raise the next round within the next 3 months? Because people have monies in the bank for 3, 6, 10 months, but the money that we had was enough to probably sustain ourselves for the next whole year, without doing anything. So I think this is what we always had in our minds, even though we were not hoping for a pandemic to come around, but it did, right? And this was the unexpected what we were saving for, and I think we have been proven right, because back at looking probably a year ago, there were a lot of consultants coming to us. Why are you saving this money? This is money for growth. You should just blow it off. You should just get the maximum number because you are looking to exit the company. I said, no, that is not why we raised money. We raised money so that when we sell the company, that company remains and actually remembers us for the rest of its entire lifetime. So that's what I actually wanted to say. That see, this happened, right? Even when nobody planned it. And if
True.
you had that money, I think you would have been the best, company to be in at this stage. But anyways,
In fact, what I realize is that, having gross profits is so important, right? Because you can always cut whatever's below the line, right? And you can take care of that. I mean, obviously, if, I always put marketing costs in my gross costs, right? But when a company does not have gross profits, right? When you're selling things below the cost you're buying them for, pandemics will wipe you out, right? And
that is
I
a
think,
disaster.
yeah, and I know you guys had amazing margins, right? So that definitely, had its role to play in essentially giving you consumer capital to invest back into your
Yes,
company.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
So if you had to say like what, let's talk about some of the, like, again, we'll come back to the question about you grow so quickly, right? And obviously, did you actually think you could plan for this kind of growth? Because most people think they can plan for this kind of scale.
Not really. So even today, so even when we made our first business plan, the plan was to actually reach the goal of half we have reached today.
Achha.
So yeah. So when you actually create a business plan, you actually take these fictional numbers which you may or may not reach, right? Really, it is just there to raise money so that you can say that you are actually numbers. But we able to achieve twice probably we would ever actually achieve. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
So
and
the plans are
also
obviously, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so I think one of the things was we actually went to this funding company, a VC or probably a standalone investors. They're like, I don't think you can reach this amount. What if I give you 200 crores? Would you be able to reach the amount today? I was like, no, that's not how business works. That's not how a mobile phone back in Motorola of 1992, turned into an iPhone today, right? It took 15 years to gruesomely, grow from model to model, bringing the cost down, getting the tech in place. This is very similar. You can't just bring a 100 crore revenue company in like, just 1 year just because you have enough funds. It is a process. It will grow on its own, and then you will be able to reach that target. So
So what you're saying is a myth buster that money cannot solve all problems.
yes, absolutely. I think yeah, that's rightly put in that way.
Yeah, because most people believe if I throw enough money at it, the problem will get solved. But like you said, there are certain processes that cannot be skipped, right? And that's
Right.
it's very important. So let's talk about branding. And I know Beardo has really, really strong and very catchy branding. I really like even your Instagram posts are very, very thought out, thoughtful
Right.
and racy, right? So where would you guys bring in a consultant or what? How did this whole persona come up?
No, so not really. So when we started, we were only a four people team, where that includes me and Priyank. So I and Priyank personally used to make sure that whatever communication goes out is actually made by us in the first year and a half of it.
Okay.
So see because the funda that we had, which was very clear. So to have a third party agency probably go out and do something is actually a little challenging, because if
Hmm.
they had that idea and if they were clear of it, then they would have gone and created their own company, right? And that
Right.
is how the difference is, because what you have in your mind, you may not really be able to put forth to probably for a third person to create an idea for you. So for the first probably 12, 16, 18 months, we had a friend of ours from Bombay who used to manage our social media, and we used to
Okay.
work closely at each and every post which was going out there. We were very clear on one thing, which was the communication part. How do we reach the men or the male audience of India?
Hmm.
What is the core focus? What language do they understand? And how do we really communicate and reach to their mind and hearts? And make a point of what we are trying to do. And that's the reason that you will not see a product post for the first probably 1 in a 10 post or 1 in a 20 post would be something about a product.
Hmm.
Rest was all about how or what being a man is, what does it stand for. Let's break the taboo of men not crying, of men not being, emotional, or a man cannot feel pain. And all of those, standard points always were there. But we also had to be careful, right? Because you can't just break in. You have to dig small holes to weaken that glass and then break it, rather than just, shooting at it. So we just had to make sure that while we are doing this, we were also not hurting the emotions, right?
Makes sense.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that has been our language, which has been a very strong, very to the point, but also at sometimes a little naughty, a little strong at times. Just to
No,
like l- see, like the smile came onto your face because I exactly know what you're thinking right now, because that's how we
yeah.
have grown, right? So I
Yeah.
think that is what we are trying to scratch the surface when we are trying to speak to our consumers.
And I think what I like about that, about what your brand says is, it's actually a persona that you guys have created, which may not be your own persona, but you've created
Right.
actually an individual, which is a brand away from yourself. And
Yeah.
and in fact, I think the hallmark of your brand of founderism or brand of entrepreneurship has always been, and I've always felt it, is that you guys are two people, and Beardo is its own company, right?
Yes.
And Beardo is not us, and we are not Beardo, right?
Right.
And it's very rare to find that, because most people get very emotionally involved, and they forget that the company is an entity by itself, and you are not the company, and neither is the company you. So
Right.
where did this thought
So
originate for
correct.
you?
So you are on point there. That's a very good point that you raised. So what happens normally is people try to probably pass on what they have learned into the company and try to form that company or shape that company of what they know. What
Hmm.
we were trying to do is we were trying to create a persona of itself, right? So we were trying to create and give Beardo a synonym that a person can be a Beardo even if he does not have beard, if he
Hmm.
is if he is a Beardo by heart. So we were trying to define or give Beardo a personality by giving it principles, by giving it some rules, by giving it saying that okay, if you were a Beardo, you would do this. Even though I wouldn't do it, but I would want a Beardo to do it. So we were trying to create a persona for Beardo, like Beardo was a superhuman being with some special powers. right?
Right.
Which it would go and solve, which would solve some problems, which girls would look at, right? Or probably even guys who actually like guys, they probably look at them and say, like, this is the guy that I would want to date, or this is the guy that I want to become. And
Yeah.
that was the kind of communication that we are trying to do. And at the same time, we were trying to keep it a little stronger. That this is that macho kind of a personality, but also has this traits of being gentle, also has this trait of being understanding, but also very, very authoritative at when the time comes. And that's how a beardo today is given. So even if you probably look what or who is a beardo, you would have synonyms to it, or you will have like explanation into the Urban Dictionary. So we were not creating a brand; we were actually creating a personality, which everybody has. They just have to
Yep.
bring it out. So that was the kind of communication that we are trying to give.
In fact, interesting, you also brought on board Sunil Shetty, right, as a brand
Yeah.
ambassador, right? And I
Right.
believe,
Right.
I'm not sure, but I believe he's an investor also in the
Yes.
company.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and and at that time, he had a beard. I remember, like it was like a huge, like I mean,
Right.
I mean, it's bigger than your beard actually, if I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
wrong.
at,
So what
at the
happened
time.
there? How do you, if let's say there's a founder out here right now, and he's like, I would love to get someone like a Sunil Shetty, right,
Right.
to endorse my brand. So how
Yeah.
does a company from Ahmedabad, right, unknown brand at that time, unknown founders, right, not no
Right.
big fund backing them,
Right.
ropes in a guy like Sunil Shetty, right? I mean, who's
Right.
well connected. How does that happen? And what's
Right.
your
So there
advice?
is.
How could someone else
Yeah.
make it happen?
So there is a. Okay. So this is a short story with some luck in it too. So what happened was, all right. So here we were thinking about what do we mean by Beardo? What does it stand for? Who do you actually, when you close your eyes and let's say there is this darbar, there is this big kingdom with this big palace, who runs who probably runs the entire world, right? What do you want that guy to look like? Would the guy have beard? Would that guy have a personality, or would it be this chocolatey, lovely, shaven boy with a beautiful crown? You would want this guy who looks very strong. You would want this person to probably say something with his eyes, without saying stuff. Who he would be giving orders. That's the kind of personality that Beardo wanted to become, and that's one of the questions. Why Sunil Shetty was
Right.
one of the very, very first questions came into mind. I was like, I see Sunil Shetty speaking with his eyes, with his persona, right? And that's when I actually asked my PR person at the time to reach out to Sunil Shetty. I was like, dude, this is crazy. You are nobodies. How can you just have somebody and pitch an idea and have them invested into the company without paying them, right? And probably asking money from them. I mean, that's crazy. Nobody's gonna listen to you.
Stand
I was
for,
like,
yeah.
just do it, okay? Just try to reach out to his assistant. Try to reach out to his office. Just get me a meeting with Sunil Shetty. So we tried. We sent hampers and stuff like this. And he probably pondered upon the website because he actually had a beard and there were not many companies here. So when we reached out, he had actually seen our website at the time, and the website was very vintage, and did not have e-com platform. There were thumbnails which were still not designed well, and so then we reached out to the assistant. Assistant said, yeah, Sunil sir has knows about the brand, and we were surprised. We were like, okay, can we come and meet him? He's like, yeah, can you come down tonight? I was like, no, we are from Ahmedabad. He's like, see, he's traveling tomorrow, so if you can come today, we can have a meeting. We just took off the next flight. We did not change clothes. We did not do nothing. We did not get ready. We did not get groomed. And here we were going to meet a Bollywood star for the first time in our lives to talk business. And you were there to impress. And
Yep.
here two boys reach his office and he's waiting for you guys. And we had a brief 25 minute meeting, about 25-30 minutes into the meeting. He's like, whatever you say, I'm in.
Wow.
And we could not believe
25 minutes.
ourselves. Yeah, we like to believe that we are good salesperson, or the sales pitch was very extremely awesome, and probably that should have been recorded. But after 25 minutes of into the conversation, he was in. And I think that was our luck, and probably he was being gracious about us flying, and he was just being kind to us. But I think we closed the deal in a day's time, and he was on board. And as soon as he was on board, I think that changed something into this category. I think that changed people giving more eyes to the brand, giving to the category, and because he also looked wonderful with the beard,
Yep.
that really helped uh, in some sense.
No, and what I love about the story is the way you cold called this. You know, I'm a cold caller. I've cold called
Yeah.
my way all my way in the US and even in India. I always like that about these. You know, the amazing entrepreneurs are the guys that really do not give that do not give a f about picking up the phone and calling. Right? What's the worst that
Right.
could happen? They could say no, but they definitely
Yeah,
can't
that's it.
shoot me. They definitely can't kill me. Right? So
Right.
that's amazing. I mean, it's such a valuable lesson again for any entrepreneur that's logged in, and there's a bunch of people logged in today to listen to you, Ashutosh. So let's talk about how did Marico's deal happen. I have a bit of insight because I know something from the other side, but I believe you
Right.
actually did not you didn't reach out to Marico for an
No,
acquisition.
no, not really. So, okay,
Yeah.
so this is something that happened again out of luck or fluke or whatever you call it. So what happened was we were growing faster on ecom. One we had closed around with VCATs. Now there was an email in the support email ID. Now support is an email ID where it is spammed, right? It is spammed by sales marketeers. Probably it is filled with customer inquiries, customer orders, and there was this one email which had gone to spam
Okay.
folder from one of the team members who had actually reached out to us from Marico saying that, hey, let's talk. And somebody from the support staff actually came to me and said, Ashutosh, I think there is a mail from Marico. I was like, just ignore it. I think it's a spam. Why would Marico want to talk to us? And I really ignored. But that night I was just thinking, and I said, you know what? Even if it's a spam or even if it's a Nigerian email, giving you $10 million,
Nigeria.
probably let's just look into it if it is from the Marico ID or not. So I did look into it, and I actually picked up the call, and they're like, hey, we are really interested in what you're doing, and we just like to explore it further. And that's how the whole conversation started, and the rest is history, like you know it.
I believe they were trying to invest in the brand from the family office side first, but I think Marico had like a dips on anything that the family office did. They just loved it. I mean, it was
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I guess that's the value of building such a strong association, such a strong story that
Right.
Marico would like an extension into his brand with you guys. And I think they're one of the first movers, at least in the larger FMCG players, to actually get on a men's brand specifically, like Beardo.
Oh yeah.
And
So what actually happened was so here was the thing, because the VCs back in the day did not really have the acceptance because there was no data to back men's grooming except shaving, right? So what
Mhm.
happened here was people are not really acceptable, and probably there were not enough brands who were doing sizable business. So that was also a point of concern for them. So as soon as Marico and Beardo closed a deal, I think the wave and the ripple went out in the market, and I think most of the other companies or the nearest competitors actually closed deals with similar kind of companies. So
Correct.
what happened was VCs at that time probably missed out on the whole opportunity of taking this and probably making it even a bigger category as they have been able to do with all the other companies and especially tech. And I think that is something which was started by us, and we have been a little gloaty about it. That what we took something away. We are sorry about it, but we don't really repent on it. I think. But also I think this is a very good amalgamation or marriage, because at the end of the day I think these are the 5, 6, 7 companies who have the best kind of products and brands in the country, right? And I think the end game is either to sell it to them or either to create an exit for your investors via the share markets or the markets, right? So I think this is one of the better stories to tell people that if this is something of an opportunity that you get, I think go for it.
And tell us about the acquisition. How did you come up? Like, you go to a company like Marico, right?
Right.
Again, massive. They've got every single analyst available to make deals
Oh yeah.
happen. And here are two guys from Ahmedabad trying to decide what's the value of my company,
Right.
and trying to negotiate a deal with these guys. What was it like, and what was
Right.
the
So here's how the first meeting went. Okay, so they had invited us to Bombay at their HO, and so me and Priyank just carrying some pieces of paper. We are just hanging and chilling, and we are like, you know what, we are the school dudes into the men's grooming category. Let's see how corporate works. And we enter this gigantic room of people, and I thought probably we are into a classroom or a conference room which we are not supposed to be in, and there is an army of people sitting right opposite to us, and here we are. trying to find a space of which would be the right chair to sit in, because you are now going to probably face the army of 10 people or eight people sitting there trying to ask you questions, trying to understand the business. And here we are, okay, but should we choose the first seat or the middle one? So I think once we went there, we really understood of where they come from, what they are trying to find, what they are trying to build, and what they look into, companies like ours, or what they are trying to look into the startups, and how they are trying to create this mix of both the old and the new, and create a digital first or a digital heavy brands, because that I think they also have realized is the future, which is very evident now. So I think it was fun. While there were a lot of technical terms which we had heard for the first time, I think the next time I actually went with this guy who was very, I think, known or learned into the technical terms, and even he was not able to probably, because he was also a friend, right? So he's like, you know what? He was studying law, and he's like, I will, I'll manage. Don't worry about it. I will. And as soon as he also got in, he also started. He brought these big books with him, and he was like, okay, wait. Let me just page number 10. Okay, what does this mean? Wait, page number 155. What does this mean? And that's how it was going. So I was like, look, you need to bring in somebody who can explain us stuff in our language, something that we would understand. And then I think the team was really kind enough to, explain us like laymen of, what they are trying to build, what were the terms, what are the technicalities, and how the deal would go. And that was fun.
And then finally you signed the deal, right? Now
Oh,
the deal
yes.
is
Oh, yes.
signed.
Yeah.
What was it like? Now you're like, you know what? I have to go tell my investors what just happened, right?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
so
Right.
what
So
what was
here,
what was that moment like?
So, okay, so here was the thing, right? So when you're dealing with such a gigantic company, right, what happens is the deal does not really end at your set date in your mind, right? Because we have always been कि 10 तारीख तक पता ना है. So we want to close this particular deal by 10th, right? For an example, that does not happen. That's world does not work as per your timetable, right? So
Right.
this is to take a long time. So I really got agitated at one point when I really called them up and said, look, if you don't finish the deal by this date, we don't want to do it. And then I realized probably this is not how you approach, a corporate. So I had to call them back. I'm like, look, sorry, but I have not really dealt with so much prolonging things. So that's when I realized that I told him, okay, let's look at this as an exam. Let's set an exam date. No matter what, you have to give it. No
Right.
matter how many documents are pending or how many complaints are pending, let's just close it. Because we cannot just keep doing this on and on, because we are a startup. We may not have done everything perfectly, right? So there will be some misses when it comes to compliances, or when it comes to some kind of a documentation. So they were like, okay, agreed. And they were also once again supportive enough to say, okay, let's set a date and let's get this done with. Otherwise,
Perfect.
I
Yeah.
think the closure of the deal would have gone for another couple of months, I'm sure.
And I think
So yeah, so
that was very impressive about the whole exit with you all, was that we actually had to do no effort at all. It's one of those rare, again, just like Harsh, who came for the first episode of the Money Talks, find very rare where, like the investors just like, okay, ठीक है, you guys are managing it, we're getting
right,
information on time, and I have to do
right,
no follow up at all, right? And I
right,
think that
right,
really speaks volumes about the way you guys really think about your investors, right? And really, I'm really glad that we were part of this entire thing, because something for other founders to really understand is that at exit, the most important thing is also communication back to your investors, right? Because they don't know what's
right,
happening unless you want 35 people showing up into the boardroom and each
right,
negotiating for their own shareholding, right?
right,
It's
right.
your responsibility to represent everyone and make sure that everybody gets their fair share.
Absolutely, on point there. I think it is very important and very very imperative when you take somebody's money, right? You are taking somebody's hard-earned money, so it is your responsibility to do right by them. It is
Yeah.
very very important that you keep your interest at the second position, and you prioritize their returns first. And that is the reason when we were actually talking to them, we were trying to make sure that all of our other investors are very very comforted, are okay with the deal, and we also made sure that they were the first ones to actually also get the money after the exit, and we were the last ones to actually get the money. We wanted to make sure that all of our investors are happy, they were informed, and we also made it a point that we always spoke to few of the investors so that they would spread the word of everything is running fine. we always spoke to few of them probably once a month to just give them an update. And even
Yeah.
if there was no update, just to inform them of what is happening in the market, how we are doing, and you should not really worry because your
Worried.
money is in
Yeah.
safe hands, and we are only going to multiply it for you. So you just sit back, relax, enjoy the journey, and just tell people that you have invested in this company. That makes you proud. That's the kind of feeling that we wanted to pass on.
And honestly, we did sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. I think
Right.
one of the rare cases where Artha wasn't heavily involved, and but really enjoyed obviously the journey and also the exit. So let's see. We've obviously, like I told you in the pre-call, that we're going to end up probably getting into a situation where we're running out of time. But Marico's acquisition is now done, right? You no
Yeah.
longer. There was a question that will Beardo now run independently, or is Marico taking over?
No,
From
so
Karan
Beardo has.
Agarwal.
Yeah, hi,
There's a
Karan. How
question
are
from
you?
Karan.
I hope you're staying safe. All right, so here's the answer to the question. So only me and Priyank have really moved out of the company. So the core essence, which actually comes from the team, right? It is the team which has created the business and where we are today, right? So it is just the management which has changed. I think all the people in the team are as is, and they are still going to work from Ahmedabad. And while Z Lifestyle Private Limited, the holding firm of Beardo, has been acquired 100% and fully by Marico, the operations will still remain separate, and they would still work as Beardo would from the same office with the same kind of passion. So I think a lot of it would remain very, very same. I think, and we are always around, right, to help or to support or to give a crazy ideas, even if they don't need it. So yeah, we are always there to push ourselves on to them sometimes whenever needed.
No, that's amazing. So now you're starting off with a clean fresh slate. I believe you're now looking at also starting to invest into other founders.
Oh yes, we absolutely are. We believe in this ecosystem where startup and the promoters earn money and give back to that particular ecosystem, and create that cycle of funds where all the startups who actually deserve the money really end up getting it, rather than not surviving rough or bad patches in the business. So I think that is what we are really trying to do. We are now trying to find or look into certain startups where we can really support, and we can also give them insights from what we have learned, and also tell them to probably stay away from certain mistakes that we have made in the past,
Hmm.
and also to do right by their investors and right by the business and stay focused rather than going here and there, and worrying about the money bit basically.
Hopefully, you'll teach them more about the things you've done right, because there was very few things you
Yeah.
did do wrong, right? So, no, and so let's talk about, we've got a few minutes before we can get into rapid fire. But by the way, if anybody has a question, please go ahead and put the question in the comment section, and I will take it up with Ashutosh. But what kind of startups are you looking into? If today there's a founder out there wondering whether he should approach you, what
Sure.
would be the reason they should? Like
Right. I
what
think
would they need to have?
sure.
Yeah.
I think we are very open to any startups into the FMCG space, because we have our specialty into the FMCG, and especially into digital and branding. So any startup out there who is into product and who is trying to sell their product or struggling with selling their products on e-commerce platforms, or struggling or probably trying to learn how to reach out the consumer or how to educate the consumers via the digital platforms. I think those are the kind of startups who are into this space and who are trying to grow. And they have done the toughest bit is to actually execute, because people
Yeah.
really have ideas, right? That the toughest bit is to actually take that step, take that first leap of faith and executing that idea, and trying to shape or trying to give it a shape. And I think
True.
that's where we can come in and close that loop for them, and help them through the process.
So I got a question from Jitu. Like, is there a niche or category you're interested to invest in? You said FMCG, but is there a niche beyond that you're looking at?
Yes, absolutely. I think we are looking into beauty. Women and beauty is one of the spaces that have always has really acted like a magnet to us, because I think we see a big potential in it, and India is still starting. It's still nascent into the beauty space, and there are a lot of gaps. There are a lot of things that we can fill, and that is also a danger to people like us, because our mind really does not stop, and we want to do everything. But it is very important that you probably take a breather and stop yourself and see into spaces. But beauty is definitely one of them. Skincare would be one of the important ones, and health and nutrition is the
Hmm.
second space that we are looking into, because while the pandemic has really given us, or enlightened us with this information of how important your health, your sense of immunity, your how fit you are, how important that is, and how important it is to intake the right kind of amount of vitamin, proteins, and all the other necessary I would say multivitamins. I think nutrition would act as one of the big drivers for the future. Probably in the next 5 years, it would be one of the bigger categories.
Wow. Great. And if someone wants to approach you, how should they approach you?
So they can reach me at my email ID, which is Ashutosh Valani, my first name and my last name at gmail.com.
Great. So
any
entrepreneurs with an FMCG startup in the three niches that we just talked about, and otherwise as well, I believe you're also investing in other categories. The best way to reach out to Ashutosh Valani at gmail.com. So Ashutosh, I've already got the gong from the team, and right. I think it's in our WhatsApp group that we need to move to rapid fire. I know you've been preparing for it, so I'll get.
Just a spoiler: I'm not good at this. So people who are watching, do not expect great answers from me, because I'm sure I would just probably end up. So if you have a show to watch, probably now is the time to change the channel.
Okay. Well. Hopefully you guys will all stick around. In fact, the viewership just hit its highest point right now. So, okay. First question: what do you know now that you wish you would have known earlier?
I think, okay, money is very important. I think it is important to, earn money and not just run after dreams, blindly. It is also important that while you are doing a business, it is very important that you earn money and you have enough to, take failures as they come, rather than, being, upset about it and then, struggling around it. So I think I think this will be two answers.
This two, yeah.
Don't be afraid of failure then, yeah. So have some money, some backup there.
One piece of advice that you received that you still follow?
Well, yeah, it was to make sure that the team is one of the important keys to anything that you do. It's the people that you work with should be like your family. So rather than treating them as employees, treat them like they are your own. And I think that would bring that level of trust into them and take the business forward. So whatever you do, make sure that you treat people right. And I think the good karma will come back to actually reward you, for sure.
Each word is worth its weight in gold. That what you just said. Each word.
Oh.
One thing that you know to be true, but very few people agree with you on it.
Beards are great. Especially my mom wouldn't agree to it, but... See, I told you, I already gave that that sign, that answers may really go here, there, yeah.
No, I like that one. Actually, I've tried to grow a beard, but after about 3 weeks, I just but maybe I'll get some pointers from you on how to grow one. Your biggest piece or biggest advice rather to founders about fundraising?
I think know your consumers. Make sure that the data that you present to the people or to the investors is very accurate. And you should know what you're pitching. You should know what exactly you want out of it. And there should be enough data to back what you're trying to claim. Just don't go with any data, and just don't shoot anything just for the sake of it, or just because you want to show that you are the smarter guy in the room. There will be smarter people. Just listen to them and probably take their feedback as well.
Yeah, don't quote a Nielsen report to say that's the data set you worked your business plan on. Again, what's a piece of advice again that sounded good at the time you heard it? It sounded amazing, but it was terrible eventually, like when you tested it out. Or maybe
okay.
You get a lot of advice and you're like, oh, this sounds really good. But then when you actually apply it or you think about it later on, you're like, oh, for example, for us, Harsh said that the worst piece of advice he got was, this is happening in China, copy it over here. Right. And he said that was the worst piece of advice. So what would that be in your experience?
Yeah, I think, okay. So there are worst pieces of advices that we used to get on every single day. And a lot of it we actually implemented. And because the brand was such that it really used to work for us for some reason. So very, very similar to what you just said, right? So people used to say, why don't you bring a beard wipe? Now you have seen baby wipes. You have seen hand wipes. What is a beard wipe? We really ended up launching it. And it did not do wonderfully and it failed. But as soon as we stopped that product, people started asking, why did you stop beard wipes? We now need it. And we ended up relaunching the beard wipes. And so there's some crazy things that happen. There is no data, there is no answer, there is no really technicality behind it, there is no logic behind it. It just goes sometimes, you know. So yeah, so I think there were
Wonderful.
many such advices. And yeah, also one of the worst advice was to, yeah, why don't you have your own house? Probably, you know, you should have a house of your, so, you know, instead of getting an office on a fifth or a seventh floor, why don't you have a house where each floor is a department of its own? And we really ended up actually going and probably scouting for such places where it was a 5-story building. And after we heard the rent or the prices of the building, we just probably we said, you know what, you know, let's not waste time. Let's go back to where we are right now. So
Oh,
yeah, so there
wow.
have been crazy stuff.
Yeah, if an investor can provide one value to you besides the money, what would it be? And we'll have to be short now.
I think it has to be experience, and it has to be the right piece of advice from whatever he has learned from the failures of all the other investments that he would have made or she would have made.
So again, data backed advice is what you're saying, right? Or at
Yes,
least
yes,
you've
absolutely.
experienced it.
Yeah.
One thing you would like to change about the Indian startup ecosystem?
I think more acceptance. Uh, I think even today, when we speak of startup, I think people only try to copy what is happening in the West, and they are really afraid to take a step towards their idea sometimes, and they actually change their ideas as per what the funding parties say to them. I would rather say, you know what, don't be afraid, don't listen to every piece of advice, take it positively, but you don't really have to don't be scared when you know somebody tries to scare you. Just go for it, because that's how the best of the businesses have been made in the past.
Fantastic. And I think so. If you could pick the brain of one person for 24 hours, ask them anything you want, like for yourself, who would it be?
I would like to say, okay, this is a cliche question, but I would like to say, answer is the cliche, not the question. I would like to say Mukesh Ambani. Because what is going on? He's in top 10. How do I get to the first five or the first two or the first three? And what is the play? You know, why is this happening? Is Geo going to be listed in India, or is it going to go to Dow? Is Reliance going to become one of the world's richest? It already is, but in the top three or five. What is happening right now? Uh, How are you targeting Bezos, and how are you targeting the Buffets and the Bill Gates, and how are we going to beat them? I think that is the kind of question that I would probably want to ask and pick brains. You know,
If
tell me
someone from
more. You know,
Reliance is listening in, we've got a very interesting question from an amazing entrepreneur. Last question, and then I've got one more audience question I can take. A blog
Sure.
that you follow, because that's what you say you follow blogs. A
Yeah, yeah.
blog that you follow and why? Yeah.
I think I used to follow this business entrepreneurs blog, which was long time ago. But I think after that I really stopped reading, because I have never been a very good reader. I almost failed my class 10th exam, because again I used to feel I used to like sleep while I was reading books. Now I'm more of a watcher, and I binge watch documentaries and shows. One of my favorite documentaries is World War II, and how it really went out, and the ones with the actual footages from back in the day. So I think that is, and I think one of the favorite parts of that is the Valkyrie operation that really
Oh yeah,
went
yeah.
in,
Wow.
because I think that is one of the most interesting
Great
stories.
movie too. Great movie.
Yeah. Great movie too.
Valkyrie.
Yes, yes.
So we'll take one question. We exactly have 1 minute and 40 seconds to go. I'll take
Sure.
one question from Shukla Siddhartha, I believe. As a startup, how do you deal with the distribution of your product across India? Did you have to fight for shelf space, or was e-commerce the only main source of distribution? Very, very specific question. And
Yeah, yeah.
Ashutosh, you'll have about 20 seconds to answer it. Yeah.
Hi, Shukla Sudha. I hope you're safe. Yes, it was a struggle. I think we faced a lot of rejection. We faced a lot of problems, because the distributors wouldn't just take the stocks, because they had not heard of the brand. So we had to really bribe them in a way that by the means of more margins, more of everything. Once we were settled, I think we started pulling that back, and we then actually balanced out the situation. But in the start, I think it is very difficult to probably push it out. But you have to again take that salesman pitch and go to each and every distributor and give them and sell them your dream, that what you're trying to build will really come true one day, and he will be the most gaining person in this particular deal. And that's how we have closed 150 distributors today, pan India.
Amazing answer, Ashutosh. That is the end of the interview. Thank you so much. Really, I think it really entertained myself. I know that so was the audience, but I really enjoyed speaking to you. Any final thoughts? We've got about 23 seconds before Instagram shuts us
No,
off.
no, thank you for having me.